Okay. Can God hear the prayers of our hearts? Okay. The Bible tells us that the effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much before God. So that gives us an indication there that God is listening to the spirit of a man. I want to read this story to you to help emphasize that God does indeed hear the prayers of our hearts. Now, it doesn't really matter what your mouth is saying. It matters what you're feeling in your heart. Oral Roberts said the Lord revealed to him how to get his prayers answered, and what he was saying was, when you pray with compassion for those people that you're praying for. You don't walk up and just say, be healed, and get out of my face. You know, that attitude. No. That's not the prayer that God answers. Okay. So, alright, now if I can figure out where this story starts. Okay, about Mark. I'm going to start somewhere around 5:25. And a certain woman which had an issue of blood 12 years, and had suffered many things of many physicians, and had spent all that she had, and was nothing better, but rather grew worse, when she heard of Jesus, came in the press behind him, and touched his clothes. And she heard about the Lord, how that he healed. And she came in behind him from, it said the press in the King James, that means a crowd of people that was pressing in, or it was a crowd there, you know. So she came in, and she pressed through the people and touched his garment. For she said, if I touch his clothes, I shall be whole. And straightway the fountain of her blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of the plague. And Jesus, immediately knowing in himself that virtue had gone out of him, turned him about in the press, and said, who touched my clothes? And of course the disciples started getting really confused. They said, there's a crowd around you, and everybody's touching you. And why do you ask, who touched me? And see, there's a way of touching Jesus. And then there's a way of touching Jesus. You know what I mean? Physical touch is different than a spiritual touch. And this is what I'm saying. See, the Lord, this woman never spoke a word to him. She didn't touch his flesh. But with her heart, the Lord heard that prayer with her heart. And immediately virtue went out of him. Because, see, the Lord is ready, willing, and waiting for that. It's like it's cocked and loaded, and the firing pin is the compassion that we have within us. Nothing else works, but the compassion that is in us is the firing pin to get God's healing on the move. Amen. So, see, this was her heart. I mean, she was 12 years suffering. She was compassionate. She was in a deep need of this. And boy, I'll tell you what, she did. She got the firing pin moving, you know. Got compassion. And the Lord, there's an indication here that the Lord's back was even turned to her. And because he says it turned around, and he said, who touched me? He turned. I'm trying to see exactly what it said here. Came to pass, he closed the run straightway from the okay. And immediately Jesus, knowing in himself that virtue had gone out of him, turned about in the press. He looked around, like, hey, who touched me? I mean, they touched me, and then somebody touched me, touched me down where it needed to be touched. The Lord was looking for people like that to touch him. Still is today, looking for people. So when you get on your knees and you begin to pray, and your written prayer, so to speak, and some people pray eons, same prayer, never get answered. Got no compassion in their prayer. I remember the times that God answered my prayer immediately was when I was feeling what I was saying. I remember a lady, that Samuel's mother, I think it was, went in and prayed, and she's knelt silently, and the priest seen her lips move and thought she was drunk because she didn't pray out loud. But the Bible says God heard that prayer. She was asking for a baby. She didn't have any. She was asking for a son. God heard that prayer and gave her a son. And does God hear our heart's prayer? You betcha He does. Matter of fact, I'll go even a step further. I'll say that's the only prayer that He hears. He only hears our heart's prayer. Amen. God bless. Thank you for joining. We'll see you again next time. Crossing the Middle Ministry with another great subject.